Hey babe, just going through your deadlift squat session for your 315 and 265. I pulled up the video from your Instagram, so I'm actually gonna take a look at that real quick. I didn't really look at it, but I mean your deadlift's pretty spot on. The only thing I notice is when you start, you kind of start with your hips just a tiny bit low. So you want to check out your back angle here before you start. And that's a direct result from actually where your shoulders are lined up. So if you see your shoulders are directly over the bar, and then when you start, pull, kind of your hips find the spot, and then the bar is placed right under your scapula. The bar comes up, and I mean this is an issue I deal with too, is setting my hip height at the exact right position. So that first initial movement is actually just kind of wasted movement. You just kind of tilt forward. But honestly, it's not bad. Like I said, it could be worse. But the beauty of the deadlift is when the weight's heavier, you know, when the weight's heavy, it will find the center of your scapula. So even if you start in a position where your shoulders go right over the bar, once you start to pull, you'll get a slight lean forward, and your arms will actually shift a little further back. But to be more efficient, I would recommend to just set up with your hips a little higher and the bar directly under your scapula. But like I said, honestly, it's not that big of a deal, but it will improve the efficiency of your lift. But I would recommend to do that, like, mainly just focus on your warm-up sets. And then when you get to your top sets, like, if it's just kind of too much to think about, don't even think about it. So Z presses, I've never done them before, but I would assume it's just like a barbell overhead press. You do a good job keeping your elbows in front of the bar, and I think I see a little wrist movement at the bottom, but that's about it. You start with your wrist. I'm assuming, like, I could probably see right there. Your wrists are a little straighter, but at the top they kind of get a little bit more extended. So I would just kind of keep your wrists a little more straighter at the lockout. But they look pretty good. Your pressing, your lifts just look good in general. So, and like I said, I'm just being like super duper nitpicky, especially with those. So, but good job on those, babe. I'll be increasing the weights on those. And if we want to stick to tricep skull crushers, I'll go ahead and progress those two as well. So the squats, these are awesome. Your squats really, really good. You do a great job preventing your knees from sliding forward. So you set your knees. Let's see. So you set your knees, they stay there, you stay in your hips, and you drive up with your hips. You actually see slight tilt forward of your torso when you come up, and that's completely natural. A slight back angle change out of the hole, like a slight closing of the back angle, is actually desired, is kind of what we want. We don't want to see the knees sliding forward. We just want to see kind of you using the hips, but you're doing that pretty much exactly. With this one, it looked like you kind of lost a little tightness. You can see your left knee kind of pulls back a little bit, and your right knee shifts forward. Honestly, it's just being nitpicky. But what I'll do is I want to increase the sets on this as we go on. We'll increase the intensity on the deadlifts as we go on too as well. It's going to be anywhere from 5 to 10 pounds as we go up on those. So good job. Tempo squats, my only suggestion is just kind of keeping a little bit more tension when you start that phase up. So I'm just going to slow this down a little bit. So you do a good job on the descent speed. You maintain the speed, but right when you get to here, you kind of collapse a little bit. The speed increases a little bit, so just try to maintain the speed and the tightness, especially when you're approaching the hole. This will translate over just a little dip, and you can actually see your knees slide forward just ever so slightly. But just stay a little tighter in that transition. And what you can focus on is just kind of driving the knees out and isometrically contracting the quads and the hamstrings. Just stay tighter in the hole. But overall, I mean, these look pretty damn fucking awesome. And I mean, this is the first time you did them, so I'm sure that just by doing them, you're just gonna get really, really good at them really, really fast. So good job with those, babe. And I'm glad I was here, and I'm glad that we kind of talked about adding this in, because, you know, keeping the arm straight is going to be very important, and to make sure that you hit that touch position is going to be very important too as well. So I'm thinking that we could do this in part of our warm-up, and, you know, like anything, you're going to get better at it. So once the weight starts getting heavier, you're going to have a lot of practice with this, and it's just going to kind of naturally go up. And you know, these are the cleans before we did the work, and as you can see, like, if you pull, so if your elbows do bend and you go to pull, you're losing some of that force transfer when you jump. And because the shoulders are already behind the bar, now you're going to bump the bar forward and you're going to have to catch it. But you do a good job here. And honestly, like, you don't see a lot of people, you know, really fine-tuning the axle continental clean, which is going to give you a great upper hand, especially focusing on that technique. And your jerk drives are freaking awesome. What I'm looking at here is I'm looking at your hip position, I'm looking at your heels, and I'm going to slow this down a little bit so you can see what I'm talking about. You probably already know what I'm talking about, but the hips need to drive straight down, the heels need to stay on the ground, the knees need to drive out, and you need a full knee and hip extension during the drive. And that's perfect. I wish I had a dip like that. So it's just straight down. There's no like forward or back movement. There is a little shifting of your heels. If you could just take a look at that spot and that spot right there. But honestly, that's pretty minuscule. But you get a good drive off, a good drive up, and you see how far that bar comes up? Like that, it's like up above your head. So very important to get that good dip drive, because that's going to translate over to a much easier catch under the bar, because it's going to be up there, you're going to be able to drop under it. So Atlas stones, we're just trying to work up to something heavy, which was exactly what I wanted you to do. You know, it's been a while since you've touched the stone, so I think getting reacclimated with that is a big deal, and it just kind of takes a couple weeks to kind of get used to that. I think too, just kind of your wardrobe kind of fucked you up today. And let me just pause this. And you know, as you attempt to lift it, you know, you set it, and then you go to kind of lift it, and then what happens is it just kind of slides down. Now, you know, that forces you to sit back down and relap it, but now it's already kind of, well, you don't relap it, but now it's sitting way lower in your belly than you wanted it to. So the next time you're doing these, just make sure you're wearing the grip shirt, or make sure you're just wearing something really, really tight that's kind of what happened to me a few weeks back. I don't know if you remember that. The shirt kind of slipped down and it was like fucking me all up, and I wore your shirt and it kind of fixed it. So, but what I want to do is I want to stick with 200, and I'm going to give you the option if you want to go up that day, and we'll just accumulate some heavier singles, and then what we'll do is we'll work on in some rep ranges, 5-6 reps maybe, and then as the weeks go on, we'll just kind of dedicate some like one motioning and just keep that progression going. So, but aside from that, farmers looked pretty good, although I didn't see them. The contest is a wheelbarrow, so that's going to be a little bit different. But just keeping these light, that's totally fine. I'm cool with that, and I'll keep progressing you. So I hope you like how things are going, and let's continue this.